Luke Blackwell's report there. Now, the Garden Bridge has remained in the press this week with claims future hold-ups could be the end to the controversial project. According to the Guardian newspaper, the trust behind the tree-lined bridge fear any new hurdles that can't be overcome could make the plans unviable. Well, Sadiq Khan has said no more public money can be used, but it is reported those behind it have so far raised just half of the £125 million needed. Michael Ball is from Thames Central Open Spaces, which has campaigned against the project. Good to see you this afternoon. Thank you for coming in. What do you make of this assessment then from the Garden Bridge Trust as the Guardian is reporting it? It suggests perhaps cracks appearing in their confidence?
Actually, I think they're preparing the way for saying that they're going to withdraw and collapse the whole thing. We've been waiting for this for at least a year. It's been quite obvious for at least a year that there are fundamental problems here. This thing cannot be delivered. And specifically, since Sadiq has come in and said no more public money, the project can't be delivered without any more public money. He needs to underwrite it. He needs to guarantee to pump in £3 million every year for the next 125 years. And he can't do that, given his commitment that he won't put any more public money in. He will not give that guarantee. And without that, the whole thing can't be built. It doesn't have planning permission without that.
The chief executive of the trust within this article is saying that they believe it will be all right and that they will go ahead. Do you think actually that the argument that if we don't go ahead with it, we will waste the money that's already been bumped into it? Lots of people saying actually it's better to go ahead now, otherwise the 60 million, I think 35 of that already spent, will be completely wasted.
You know, I've got a car that broke down and I spent a good £4,000 on trying to get it fixed, and I took it back on the road. I was spending £4,000 and it broke down after 10 miles. That isn't the solution. You spent lots of money on this. They've wasted £40 million on something that was clearly unviable in 2013, or at least they didn't look at the viability. They never tested that. They never even tested the value for money until the whole thing was in place and they'd already spent £10 million. And they were putting that argument up right then, back in 2014. This argument that the money's already been spent, yes, it's gone. There's no point in crying over that. There's a point in looking at it and saying, why do we do this? Don't make these mistakes anymore. But for the future, this project is going to cost the taxpayer huge amounts of money, £3 million every year to run it, potentially, and it's got, at the moment, a £55 million hole in the construction costs. So, and that can only be bridged by the state. So we can only spend more money as the public, and why on earth should we? We've got so many other creaking transport issues that we should be resolving. Just that £3 million a year, that would give 60 members of staff on London Underground. You could employ one new member of staff on every underground in central London. It's a simple and prosaic response to a flashy idea of a garden bridge, but that's the reality of transport needs.
Is the cost your main concern? Is that why you're so against it?
No, I'm furious about the costs, but actually we didn't learn about the costs until well into this. What's wrong with this project is that it's unnecessary, it's not needed, it's the wrong project in the wrong place. It's in a place which is already incredibly popular. It's probably the most popular outdoor walking space in Europe. It's fantastic. You walk along the South Bank, it's gorgeous. And it's increasingly popular. The last thing we need is yet another destination. There are thousands of them along there. The Tate Modern Extension just opened. At least that's got a purpose. People can go in there. This thing hasn't got a purpose. The idea that you'll have a quiet space to while away the time is ludicrous. They're actually preparing for queues, and you're going to be stuck on this bridge potentially with a great herd of people. It's going to be deeply unpleasant. It's not going to be attractive. Anybody who's been to Venice, to famous bridges there, knows how unpleasant that can be in the tourist season. It's going to be like that all year round.
So some would argue that would make them extremely popular and successful if they would be so busy. If you're saying it would be so packed during the time, then you could argue that the tourist argument, the boosted tourism, will be working.
There's no need for boosted tourism in central London. We're so full of tourists, it's not true. What we actually need to do is to spread those tourists out across London. And I think that's recognised in Sadiq's plans and even in Boris's plans before him, that we need to spread this stuff around. Concentrating everything in central London is potentially disastrous. It's actually going to be counterproductive. Anybody who's been to the Ramblers in Barcelona will know that what was once a gorgeous space can turn into a mosh pit if everybody from Europe descends upon it. This is not what we need. What we need is to get great places like Kensington. Kensington could do with more visitors. Well, let's have a visitor attraction here. You could put one down in further across in West London, and obviously in East London there are a desperate need for bridges.
Dame Margaret Hodge examining whether or not this will provide value for money. If it's that she decides it is good value for money, would that knock some of your arguments aside? Do you think that would mean it would go ahead?
Well, I'd be amazed if she did decide it's value for money. She's the first person who's properly looked at whether it's value for money, and which is disgraceful. They should have been looked at in 2013. That's what the Treasury demands, that's what they expect, and they managed to just bypass that. George Osborne and Boris managed to bypass that. So I'll be amazed if she does find that it's value for money. But even if she did, we can't get around the fact that it's going to require more money, and Sadiq has said he will not give any more money, and those two things cannot be resolved. And either he breaks his bond and he says, actually, I'll give it £3 million a year, potentially, or he says, I can't underwrite this guarantee, and if he doesn't underwrite the guarantee for the running costs of the bridge, it cannot be built. They cannot lay a stone in the ground without that guarantee.
OK, Michael Ball from Thames Central Open Spaces, thank you for joining us this lunchtime. We have been in touch with the trust behind the Garden Bridge. They have yet to get back to us. Let's move on. This is London Live News, still to come.